You're being watched. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Pokemon Alpha Sapphire. Huh? Ugh. How did you know I concealed myself beneath this desk? Your shop. Behold! For I am the greatest living mystery of a man in all of Hoenn. They call me the Trick Master. Ooh, ha ha ha! Glad to meet you. You've come to challenge my trick house, haven't you? Yes, why you're here, isn't it? Yes, it is. Consider your challenge accepted. Enter through the scroll there and let your challenge commence. I shall be waiting in the back. One more thing, I have to warn you. My tricks are quite difficult, don't get lost. And he gives us an escape rope, which is an automatic escape from any dungeon should you use it from your bag. Now I'm really leaving. I shall be waiting in the back. Alright, properly hi everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Pokemon Alpha Sapphire. In the last part, we explored Slateport City and finally left after dealing with Team Aqua once again. And now we're in Route 110's Trick House. This is an area that has several challenges that update throughout the game that usually focus around the HMs you get throughout it to solve little mazes and puzzles, fighting some trainers, and grabbing some little items along the way. With that said, every single layout for the Trick House has been changed for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire largely. In fact, several have even been cut. Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald had 8 total puzzles for this place throughout the campaign. Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire only has 5. With that said, starting off with our first new Pokemon, this is Gulpin. Pure Poison type, so it's weak to Ground and Psychic. Gulpin itself isn't a lot to write home about. It has an okay HP stat, but when it eventually evolves, you do get a really good overall tank with good HP and defensive stats, and its attack isn't the worst either, but it is pretty slow. Its learn set will be the make or break for some people, I think, as, well, it can learn some really good poison moves, and it can learn a lot of good things through TM or tutors down the line. There are Pokemon that can fulfill what this one does better in my own preferences, at least. But you could do a lot worse for a tank. This is an overall decent Pokemon line. And hey, if you like the sound of them, you can catch them immediately after this. The grass tiles scattered throughout Route 110 are their main location, I believe, in the game. They're not the most common encounter there, but there are rarer ones, especially here in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, where I think they added an encounter to this route. So, the Trick House. Our first puzzle in both versions of the game is a cut HM maze of sorts. But worth noting, they actively changed the items that you can find in all of the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire Trick House rooms. Notably, in basically every single room in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald here, the main items you could find were mail envelopes that Pokemon can hold. Meanwhile, here in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, they're largely changed into specific food items that are usually region exclusive from later Pokemon games. For instance, here in this room, we're actually going to find a Hoenn usually exclusive item, the Lava Cookie. Lava Cookies, when used on a Pokemon, heal any of their abnormal status conditions, so poison, paralysis, things like that. Meanwhile, the mail items tie into the Easy Chat system, which we actually saw some remnants of back at the hall at Dewford, where you could choose items or already specified phrases to work with. With the mail items, you could select, I think, upwards of 9 words or something like that to make a sentence out of predetermined phrases defined by the game already. That is a system that existed from Gens 2 to Gen 5. And as they went, they actively made it a little bit easier to work with, because you could like select pre-made sentences and then just fill in a specific phrase that could be translated across the various languages of the game. It's an outdated way of communicating, but given what the series was like up to Gen 6, it made sense for why they used it, but I don't think I actually knew anyone who ever really used the system proper. It was just something they kind of had to work with. Now, our main goal in every single Trick House room is to find the scroll that's located throughout it, like this one. Kyle found a scroll! Kyle memorized the secret code written on the scroll, and from there you want to reach the scroll on the back wall, which is still hiding a door, and leave the room from that, but you can only do so after you find the password scroll in the maze. Notably, they give you an escape rope for a reason. There are some of these where you can actively get yourself a little stuck. Sometimes you can leave from the failed state, but other times you're going to want to use an escape rope just in case so you don't actively find yourself in a bit of a bad situation. That's our first puzzle room completed, and not only are we going to find our reward by talking to Puzzle Master here, but also there's a expert belt in here. This boosts the power of super effective moves by some percent. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. Ah, you've made it this far. You're sharp. It took me all night to plant those trees. You're almost my equal in greatness by 1, 2, 3, 4 places. Great, you've earned this reward. Taunt is a move that I seldom use, but in some cases can be pretty annoying when it's used on me. Scrub that smug smirk off your face. It's much too early to think you won. I'll make new tricks to stump you, I will. You may mock me only when you're done. Come back for the next exciting installment. What Taunt does is that it makes the target Pokemon unable to use non-attacking moves. So you can't, say, use a stat boosting move unless it's also a direct attack and things like that. There are some cases that's annoying when it's used against me, but since most of my moves tend to be direct attacks anyway, it's not the worst. With that said, now we're actually back on Route 103. We've been on this route before, if you remember. This is the route we battled May on back in Part 1, just now we're across the other side of the lake that was on the right side of that route before. And here we got another new Pokemon. This is Rosalia, grass poison type, so it's weak to flying, fire, psychic, and ice. You're going to be able to find one of these on an upcoming route, and honestly, if you didn't choose Trico at the start of the game and you're looking for a grass type, you could do a lot worse. Has a pretty good special attack stat and some good special defense to boost it up, and since we're past Gen 4 at this point in the series in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, you also have the ability to evolve it into an even better special attacker and defender with some good speed to back it up at that point too. I've used this Pokemon a couple times, and it largely has satisfied what I like to use it for. With that said, grass type isn't usually the type I reach for first. Largely, if I have a grass type, it's a subtype for something else that I'm using along the way. Worth noting, Rosalia does have two potential abilities. Natural Cure, which will heal any status ailments that are inflicted on it upon switching out in battle, which is honestly really good if you have something good to switch into. And Poison Point, which I think I may have talked about already in the LP. If I haven't yet, what that means is if an opponent makes physical contact with a Pokemon that has that ability, there's a chance, I forget the percentage of it, that they'll just get poison inflicted outright, which in a lot of battles can be a boon, but if you're actively trying to catch a Pokemon, that can be a bit of a detriment. But it really depends on the situation once again. Worth noting though, the eastern half of Route 103 here is entirely optional. You never need to visit here. There's barely any items, and most of what's over here honestly is trainer experience and I guess money from them, which the money's nice, but especially in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, you don't really even need the experience because of how quickly you gain experience overall in this version. It's nice, but it's never really needed. I think overall the main purpose of this route like this is to act as a shortcut to, but especially from Petalburg back towards the center of the region, which there is a reason for that. But I tend to just go the other direction anyway, because it doesn't take that much longer. So, in that regard, it's probably one of the most forgettable routes in the series, honestly, because most other routes either work well to ferry you onto your next major destination, or have a notable area within them themselves that acts as the reason for the route's existence. This one, not really. This battle's kind of important though, because in it, Dump hit level 20 and is now going to evolve. This is a pretty standard evolution, mostly just stat and learn set updates, no type changing or anything like that. But notably, if you got a Dawnstone when doing Secret Super Training already by this point in the game, and you have a male Ralts, which is now a male Kirlia, you can actively use it on that Kirlia immediately to evolve it into a Pokemon that was added in Gen 4 to this evolution line. And that's the physical attacking version of this line that I brought up when we first caught the Ralts. I'm not doing that because I'm going for the special attack focused route, but it's worth noting all the same. With that said, I would still recommend on waiting on it, as the thing is with most stone-based evolutions in the series is that barring moves they learn upon the evolution itself, they don't tend to learn too many moves by leveling up after a stone evolution. At large, there's some cases where that's not exactly true. Already into our next new Pokemon, this is Electrike, the most common Pokemon on this route. Pure electric type, so it's weak to ground. It's got some okay special attack and speed for what it is, and when it evolves, it only gets better, but it really took until Gen 6, where its Mega Evolution was added, for it to get some really good stats out of it. It's got an okay learn set, but largely, from my experience, there's just better electric types. Notably, though, this Pokemon does very often have Roar, which can force either you to flee a random battle or force a Pokemon in trainer battles to swap out. Most notably, it can also have the Static ability, which is effectively Poison Point, but for the paralysis status ailment rather than poison. You could do a lot worse for electric types, but you could also do a lot better just generally, which I know I've said that for a lot of Pokemon, but that's because I am very stat focused on my Pokemon selection. usually it has a stat of 100 plus on something, and I'll openly admit that is just how I tend to play these games. I know some people like to use the cute Pokemon, some like to focus on specific types. I'm very much, I need them to have a good stat, largely. And now it's time for this trainer battle. There's going to be another new Pokemon, but really quick, I don't think I ever talked about Ralts or Curlia's abilities. By default, they'll either have Synchronize or Trace. Synchronize will pass on a status ailment that's inflicted upon the Pokemon to its opponents. Meanwhile, Trace will copy the ability of the Pokemon they're fighting, which can really reverse some situations here and again. Next new Pokemon is Aaron, a Steel Rock type, so it's weak to fighting, ground, and water. Notably, both fighting and ground are 4 times weaknesses, but immune to poison. For a first of a 3-stage Pokemon line, this is kind of a nuts Pokemon, because while it's really slow and can't really take a special hit worth a damn, it's already got a pretty good physical attack stat and nuts defense, and as it eventually reaches its final evolution, you get a great physical attacker that can really take a physical hit. I've used this Pokemon and its line several times across playing Hoenn. I would use it again anytime. It's a really good Pokemon line at large. If you like the sound of it, I'd recommend going back to Granite Cave and finding one, albeit at this point in the game, the only room you can find them in over at Granite Cave is the room where we first met Steven, and it's a rare encounter there. At this point, though, Boomba has hit level 18, so it's now evolving into its next state, Vigoroth. Vigoroth has some pretty good physical stats and a pretty good speed stat overall as well. Still pure normal type, so just weak to fighting, immune to ghosts. But easily the biggest buff it gets is that it loses the Truant ability, instead gaining Vital Spirit. Vital Spirit makes the Pokemon that has it immune to the sleep status ailment completely, making this almost the complete opposite from the evolution that preceded it and the one that will succeed it as well later on. Oh, hi, May. I'd recommend saving here, especially in the GBA games, just in case, by the way. Hey, Kyle, it's been ages. Nice timing, too. I was just searching for Pokemon, you know? My dad's always going on about how nature used to be even more diverse way back in the day. He says that there used to be way more kinds of Pokemon than there are now. So that's why we do field work, him and me. We really want to find out what happened to those Pokemon in the past. On my journey up to now, I've met a lot of different Pokemon, and I think I've gotten to understand a lot of them too. Me and my Pokemon have really grown. So, how about a little battle? May is back, and her party largely depends on which starter you chose, because no matter what, she's going to have a grass, water, and fire type of some sort. For me, she's starting off with her Shroomish, which she has if you picked Torchic or if you picked Trico. The Shroomish has Effect Spore for its ability, Stun Spore, Leech Seed, Mega Drain, and Headbutt in both of those battles. Effect Spore, notably, causes it to leave spores on contact that can cause the attacking Pokemon to either get poisoned, paralyzed, or fall asleep. A good Fire-type move or Flying-type move will take this thing out pretty quickly, depending on what you've caught up to now. It's probably the least dangerous member of any of her teams, even though the Effect Spore can drastically change things depending on the status ailment you get afflicted with. Next up for me, she's going to be throwing out her Fire-type, her Slugma. Magma Armor for its ability, Ember, Rock Throw, Harden, and Incinerate. This is also present if you chose Mudkip. Magma Armor prevents the Pokemon that has it from getting hit with the Freeze status ailment, which is honestly pretty rare. But worth noting all the same. Notably, going back to Ralts really quick, there's one other ability I haven't mentioned that the Ralts line can get, and that's because it's the hidden ability, so it's pretty rare. Telepathy allows you to avoid damaging moves used in double battles by your allies, which can be a game changer depending on what moves you're using, but largely I tend to prefer Ralts that have Trace myself. As for Slugma itself, it's a pure fire type, so it's weak to ground, rock, and water. It's got a pretty decent special attack stat, I guess, but the rest of its stats are pretty garbage. But when it evolves, it becomes an okay special attacker with a really good physical attack stat, but its HP and speed are so low that it's not going to last too long in battle, even with the subtype it ultimately gains. Next up, she throws out her now evolved starter, which for me, since I chose Torchic, is now a Marshtomp. Torrent for its ability, Mudslap, Foresight, Mud Bomb, and Bide. An evolving Mudkip actively gains a ground subtyping, so now it's 4 times weak to grass and completely immune to electricity. Partner that with its decent physical attack stat and okay defenses as well, and you got a largely pretty good middle stage Pokemon for a starter evolution. With that said, it's the final evolution of Mudkip that really carries this line for me. If you're playing and you chose Trico, you'd be fighting a Combustion here that has Blaze, Sand Attack, Peck, Double Kick, and Flame Charge. And if you chose Mudkip, you'd be fighting a Grovyle with Overgrow, Quick Attack, Mega Drain, Fury Cutter, and Pursuit. I can distinctly remember throwing myself at this battle over and over again in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald as a kid, back when I only really leveled my starter. And it was a nightmare. Helps that I didn't really have the type layouts memorized at all yet, so, the trials of Pokemon being hard when you're a kid. Yikes, you're better than I expected. Kyle, you've been busy training too, haven't you? Oops, but look at us, our teams look pretty tired. Let's get them taken care of first. And now I think you deserve a reward too. Here, this is from me. And we get the good old dowsing machine and probably its most useful version outside maybe Gen 4. That's a dowsing machine. Try it out. If there's a hidden item anywhere near you, that little thing will react to tell you. Pay attention and it'll lead you right to items. And it's fun to see all those waving bits above your head. Try it and I bet you'll be hooked. Careful, you won't be able to sneak up on Pokemon while you wear it. See you later then, Kyle. Let's meet again. I hope we'll both be able to meet even more Pokemon in our journeys. I think them healing you there was also added for Oras, which tracks because of how many times they do that across this playthrough. So the dowsing machine. This allows us to find the invisible hidden items we've been collecting up to now pretty easily. You equip it and the antennas start glowing. It starts at blue, but then as you get closer it turns green to yellow to red when you're directly in front of the item you can collect. Only issue is you can't tilt the circle pad slightly to actively sneak up on Pokemon while you're using it. You'll only ever walk or run. Which, depending on the type of player you are, isn't the worst trade-off, but I also don't like to have it on my head constantly because it just looks silly while wearing it. Notably though, Gen 6 here allows you to register up to 4 key items to use at any point in time by just holding the Y button and then pressing one direction on the D-pad. I'd recommend making that one of your 4 pretty universally. This battle has our next new Pokemon though. This particular collector is sending out a Nuzleaf. Nuzleaf evolves from Seedot at level 14. It is a grass dark type, meaning it is weak to fighting, flying, poison, bug, fire, ice, and fairy, but immune to psychic. Bug, notably, is a 4 times weakness. Nuzleaf isn't that great. It's got, I guess, an okay HP and physical attack stat, but the rest of its stats aren't anything to write too much home about. It really is the final evolution there that's kind of neat, but again, there are just far better grass and or dark types for most teams, I would say. Just to talk about Grovyle really quick though, because May could have one depending if you chose Mudkip or if you chose a Trico yourself, you would probably have one by now. Grovyle is a pure grass type, so still weak to flying, poison, bug, fire, and ice. For a second stage Pokemon, it's got a really good speed stat and special attack stat, and it's got the moveset to back it up, but it's not its fullest state, but it's really good still. Next new Pokemon though is an Abra, pure psychic type, so it's weak to bug, ghost, and dark. For a first stage Pokemon, this Pokemon might be very fragile, but it's really fast and has a really good special attack stat. And that only gets better as it evolves, but like a couple of other Pokemon we've talked about, you can't actively fully evolve it unless you trade it. With that said, if you do trade it, you get what was the king of Gen 1, barring a specific legendary type, because its special attack stat is nuts, and it's also really fast on top of that. I actively used the fully evolved version of this back in my Fire Red LP for good reason. It's a really good psychic type. I'd recommend the Abra line a lot if you're looking for a psychic. The main reason I didn't for this playthrough ties into another rule I have for my Pokemon LPs specifically, where outside of my favorite overall Pokemon, in the case I can catch them early enough in the game, I am not using the same Pokemon twice across these LPs largely. It's why I'm not using an Abra in this playthrough, it's why you won't see me use a Zubat again, or a Sandshrew again, all that kind of jazz. The only time that won't entirely be true is if there's a regional variant, when those start showing up in Gen 7, but that's years down the line at this point. At this point though, we're just about done with Route 110. Our next town is directly north of us, but there's one more battle we can take care of here that has a new Pokemon for us just to my southeast. Lepa berries, by the way, are berries I recommend having a good stock of in the case you're going through long treks, because when used outside of battle, they restore 10 PP to a move of your choice on a Pokemon, but when used as a held item, the first move that reaches 0 PP in battle will automatically be restored by 10. Here's the fisherman in question. The Pokemon that's new here is actively not their first Pokemon, but worth noting, depending on what you actively went up against with May, she can also have one of these. The Pokemon in question is Wailmer, a pure water type, so it's weak to grass and electric. For a first stage Pokemon, this has a nuts HP stat. It's also got some good attack stats to back it up, and it's not the slowest in the world, but it's also not the fastest. It can have Water Veil or Oblivious for its abilities. We talked about Water Veil last time with Goldeen, but Oblivious prevents the attraction status ailment from being used on them. If you evolve a Wailmer, you get a really good HP tank with some decent attack stats to back it up, so it can use effectively most water moves pretty effectively. If you're going for a water type, this is another really good one you could actively have on your team. Worth noting though, if you either went up against that last battle with May with either a Mudkip or Trico being chosen earlier, she'll have a Wailmer herself with Water Veil as its ability, Water Gun, Rollout, Whirlpool, and Astonish. Rollout could be the potential issue there. For reasons if you've played Gen 2, you'll understand very well. Wow, so this is Mauville City. You sure seem to be enjoying it, Wally. So what would you like to do? Do you want to grab a bite to eat at the Mauville Food Court? Or maybe we could get you a bike of your own at Rydell Cycles. Would you like that? I bet the exercise would be good for your health. No, thank you. I want to challenge the gym right away. What? Let me see, I'm pretty sure the gym is... Yep, straight ahead this way, just through the inner courtyard. What? Hey, wait! Wally? Oh, nice to see he's doing well. Welcome to Mauville City. Out of any town in the game, this is the one that got the largest update here for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. In the original game, it was a pretty straightforward town. Now it's a 3-floored, almost shopping mall-like city. Due to that, there's a lot you could do here. With that said, there's some things we actively can't even remotely tackle until later on, and there's some things I basically never even do in the LP because I don't really find a point in it myself. Starting off, coming down this, every single interior or exterior wall has several shops in it. I used to run a business here, but I had to close it for reasons you don't need to know. Anyway, I still have some prizes left. Think you can take care of them? Doing this, we get a doll of each of the starters for our base, which we'll talk about what our base is later on when it actually becomes relevant. Thank you, I can tell they're happy too. Why is this here? Well, thank you for your support over the years. Good game, Mauville Game Corner owner. The game corners we've talked about prior in Fire Red Leaf Green and Heart Gold Soul Silver, they were casinos you could actively gamble on at slots for and get coins to either get new TMs or Pokemon. With that said, starting in Black and White, they kind of stopped existing, and anytime they did a remake of a game that had one, they did effectively what we just saw. The main reason this was happening, I believe, is due to legislation changes, especially in Europe, where if they wanted to have the game corners in them, the age rating would have to be bumped up, and I'm assuming they wanted to avoid that as best as they could to keep the kid demographic in there. Other shops we've seen along this line so far, there's the Mirror Shop where you can actively showcase 3 specific Gen 5 legendaries to change their form, more on that later. There's this Massage Parlor which will actively raise the friendship of a Pokemon once per day, should you actively use it on them. And then there's the Pokemile Shop. More on what that does in a moment. Uncle, I'm begging you. I want to challenge this gym to see how much stronger I've become. Please, you'll let me, won't you? Now hold on, Wally. It's certainly true that you've grown quite a lot stronger alongside your Pokemon. But don't you think that jumping right into challenging a gym might be pushing it? I'm not pushing it. If it's me and my Ralts, we can beat anyone. Kyle! Ralts and I have gotten a lot stronger since we first met. Growing together. I want to prove that to you and my uncle both, Kyle. Please, help me once more. And have a battle with me. Sure. Thank you, Kyle. Okay, here we go. We're going to win this, Ralts. We have to. Wally's only Pokemon here is his Ralts, so it's weak to Poison, Ghost, and Steel, but immune to Dragon. Synchronized for its ability, so any status ailments you inflict on it will come right back at you. Teleport, Lucky Chant, Magical Leaf, and Disarming Voice for moves. Teleport will do nothing, Lucky Chant prevents you from critting it, so it's really just Magical Leaf or Disarming Voice here that can damage you. But at this point, given Ralts' own stats and where you are probably level-wise, you're not going to be up against much of a fight here in basically any version, barring maybe challenge runs. But I don't do challenge runs in Pokemon, so, sorry, buddy. The super training alone really kind of just put me over you in this specific instance. Wow, you really are strong, Kyle. Uncle, I'll go back to Verdant Turf. Kyle, thank you. Being a trainer is tough, isn't it? It's not enough just to battle with your Pokemon. I can't become a true trainer like that. Not really. Wally, there's no need to get so down on yourself. Why, what's keeping you from becoming stronger? Nothing is. All you need to do is keep growing. Come on, let's go home. Everyone's waiting for you. Yes, Uncle. Kyle. I'm definitely... I'm going to get stronger. Much, much stronger. I feel like I learned a lot from just one Pokemon battle with you. About my own limits and Ralts's. So, that's why... Kyle, if it's alright, could I call you my... never mind, sorry. It was nothing, please forget about it. Goodbye. It just dawned on me that you must be the young man who kept an eye out for Wally when he caught his Pokemon. So it's you we have to thank for Wally becoming so positive about the future. Thank you. Ah, here, take this. I want you to have it as a bit of a thank you. And he just gives us the Rock Smash HM. If there are obstacles in your path, I think you'll be able to break through them. Especially if you use Rock Smash there. We should head back now, but if you ever have the time, I'd love it if you'd stop by our home in Verdant Turf. I'm sure Wally would enjoy it too. We look forward to seeing you. And with that, we can now challenge the gym here in Mauville, but I don't do that immediately. Rock Smash, notably, we can't use in the field until we beat Watson here at Mauville Gym. But as a move itself, it is a fighting-type move that inflicts damage and has a 50% chance, I believe, of lowering the target's defense stat by one stage. So, Pokémiles for that one shot back on the west half of the city. Pokémiles are either earned by walking around through Kalos and Hoenn here in Gen 6, or interacting with other players by trading, battling online, or otherwise using Street Pass. At that shop, you can spend Pokémiles to get decently high-tier healing items or catching items like Max Repels, Ultra Balls, Max Potions, Max Revives even. But it's expensive enough where you're going to need to play the game a lot to use it any kind of regularly. Not exactly something I personally like to do. Most of the more interesting things here in Mauville are on the eastern side of the city, but even then, I don't really do anything with those in this LP, largely because I'm going to save them for when I tackle the main Generation 6, so that LP will have just a bit more meat on it, because out of all the mainline Pokemon LPs I do, unironically, the Gen 6 one will probably end up being the shortest if I had to guess, because there is not a lot to main Gen 6. And there was clearly going to be more, but then plans changed as we've learned through certain leaks. The most important things on the east side of Mauville is that there's two specific areas. One is the Battle Institute, which you can't even really do stuff with until you've actively beaten the campaign. Effectively in here, you would do a chain of either 5 single or 5 double battles, and depending on your score, you would earn BP, which you can spend in the post-game shops, and you could get either a random wing to boost EVs, a random vitamin to boost EVs, or a PP up. You also get the Versus Recorder, which is used to record your combat encounters effectively for multiplayer in this specific generation. In other games, that was used to trigger refights against Pokemon trainers, but there's a different way that works here in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. More on that way later in post-game. The more interesting place to me is the area directly to our south, and even though I don't show it off in this LP, I might as well talk about it. It's the Inverse Battle Shop. The rewards for battling in there are largely just berries, but if you do well enough, you can either get rare candies, which are a free level up on a Pokemon, or basically any of the evolution stones. But what the Inverse Battle Shop does is that it inverts the type layouts. So, to use the traditional starter thing, usually fire is double damage to grass, is double damage to water, is double damage to fire. Here in the inverse battle shop, those rules are reversed. Thus, grass does double damage to fire, does double damage to water, does double damage to grass. It's an interesting rule set, but for what I do in this LP, I didn't really have much of a reason to showcase this. With that said, I'll probably do a little bit more with this when I actually reach Kalos outright. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 8, we're going to continue looking around Mauville City before moving on to our next destination. See you guys then.